Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to look at something that many of us think we understand, but actually has layers of incredible depth. You know, when we see kids in a dance studio, it's so easy to just see a fun, creative, physical outlet. Maybe they're burning off some energy or learning a cute routine, right? But child development research tells a completely different story. Today, we're going to explore the hidden developmental power of dance and how it actively shapes the core life skills a child relies on every single day.
So, here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll start with more than just movement, move into finding focus through timing, then tackle building discipline through practice and growing confidence safely, before wrapping up with how to choose the right program.
All right, Section 1, more than just movement. We're looking at the cognitive link to physical activity. For a lot of families, choosing an extracurricular activity can feel, well, a bit like a guessing game. You know you want something beneficial, but it's really hard to measure the actual return on investment for your child's growth. So I want to pose this essential question directly to you. How does dance truly benefit child development? We shouldn't just be asking if it's a good or healthy thing to do, but rather, what specific, measurable developmental benefits does a kid actually walk away with when they leave the studio? Well, the research provides a really clear answer. Learning and child development research consistently links movement-based activities to significant improvements in three main areas: engagement, motivation, and self-management. What we're seeing here is that the physical activity of dance is literally hardwired to cognitive and behavioral growth. When a child is learning steps, they aren't just memorizing choreography. Actually, scratch that. It's more like they are exercising the exact parts of their brain responsible for managing themselves and staying motivated. It is basically a full-brain workout masquerading as an art form.
Moving on to Section 2, Finding Focus Through Timing. This is all about translating action into attention.
This is the first major pillar of our developmental triad: focus. Think of a dance studio as a highly active, high-energy classroom designed specifically to train sustained attention. Now, what's really interesting about this process is how children process real-time information to build that focus. First, they have to listen for vocal instructions from the teacher. Second, they're actively watching physical demonstrations. And third, they have to coordinate their own bodily movements to match the timing of the music. That is an incredibly complex blend of sound, sight, and body movement. By processing all of this simultaneously, children are forced to practice deep, sustained attention in a way that very few other activities demand.
And the result of all that intense processing, it's summarized perfectly in our source material: learning to stay with the task. Because dance choreography relies so heavily on exact timing and accuracy, kids just have to engage in repeated practice. Let's be real, it almost never looks perfect the first time. But over time, that repetition trains the child's brain not to disengage or zone out when something feels difficult. They learn to stay in the pocket, to keep trying. And that ability to maintain focus through difficulty, that's a direct transfer to schoolwork and sitting at a desk.
Okay, Section 3, Building Discipline Through Practice. Developing a structure for self-control.
So, that brings us to the second pillar of our triad. If focus is about paying attention, discipline is about what you do with that attention over time. A dance class provides a highly structured environment to test exactly that. Now, I kind of want to redefine this word today because discipline can sometimes sound a little harsh. But in the context of dance, discipline simply means showing up on time, following class rules, and working through physical and mental challenges without giving up. Structured lessons introduce very clear, predictable expectations. There's a warm-up, there's technique work, and there's rehearsal for a specific goal. This predictable structure creates a really safe framework for kids to practice perseverance and self-regulation.
So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that progress comes from effort. Sounds simple, right? But for a developing mind, internalizing this is massive. When a child practices the exact same step or sequence over and over until it finally clicks, they are strengthening their ability to manage their own impulses. They learn that immediate perfection isn't the goal, sustained effort is. They learn to delay gratification, which is, for sure, one of the most critical life skills anyone can possess.
Section 4, Growing Confidence Safely. Let's move to and see how this builds mastery in supportive environments.
We've established focus, and we've built discipline. When you combine those two effectively, the natural byproduct is confidence. But listen, confidence isn't magic. It grows specifically from mastery and safe performance. We often think of confidence as this innate personality trait, like you either have it or you don't. But the research from our source material shows that confidence actually requires two very specific things to bloom: encouragement and measurable, supported growth. A child has to actually experience getting better at something in a space where they feel totally secure.
And what does experiencing that competence actually look like in the studio? Well, it's improving a specific turn after weeks of wobbling. It's successfully remembering a full routine from start to finish without needing a hint. It's the shared joy of performing alongside friends. Even when these performances are totally optional or incredibly low pressure, the mere process of preparing for them and executing them builds a tremendous, undeniable sense of achievement in a young mind.
But none of that competence matters if the environment isn't right. Mistakes must be treated as part of learning. Emotional safety is absolutely paramount here. The crucial role of a supportive instructor really cannot be overstated. A good teacher reinforces confidence by actively celebrating the effort, not just the final result, and by offering constructive, gentle feedback. Because when a kid knows that making a mistake won't result in shame, they are far more likely to take the creative risks necessary to actually grow.
Which leads us to Section 5, choosing the right program. Let's talk about what families should actually look for.
We've spent this explainer detailing the developmental why dance is so incredibly good for focus, discipline, and confidence. Now let's shift to the practical how, because let's be honest, not all dance experiences are created equal. You want to look for a beneficial experience featuring age-appropriate expectations, positive coaching, and individualized feedback. Conversely, you absolutely want to avoid programs with overwhelming expectations that lack emotional safety. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast. A program that pushes too hard, too fast, or expects perfection over progress will actually dismantle the very confidence and discipline we just spent this whole explainer talking about building.
To make this super actionable for you, here's an ideal program checklist pulled directly from our source material. First, ensure the studio matches your child's age and temperament. Second, look for a place emphasizing technique fundamentals over flashy tricks. Third, verify that emotional safety is a true priority. Fourth, for the best results, seek out short, consistent sessions. And finally, ensure they can participate at their own pace. That right there is the exact blueprint for keeping a child engaged without overwhelming them.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. How will your child connect movement with growth? We've seen today that with the right focus, the right discipline, and a safe, supportive environment, a simple dance class transforms into a literal masterclass in life skills. The potential is right there, waiting to be unlocked. It's really just a matter of finding the right floor to dance on. Thank you so much for joining me for today's explainer, and as always, keep learning.